Oh, started without me here. Okay. So, today is the 12th, January. And I'm just going to, as much as I am called, which could be daily, to check in on the energies of this unfoldment. I wanted to give you guys a better background. Utilizing just insight, but also utilizing the I Ching. Okay, so today's contemplation is just asking where things are at today, not necessarily the end result, because I feel like many of us have seen that and we know. And if you don't know, then we'll talk about that another time. But we are in the global ascension process. So where are we at in this process as far as disclosure and so forth goes? So I get tile 60, which is limitation. So what I'm getting from this is a glass can only hold so much. A container can only hold so much water before it overflows. So it's like putting water in just enough for that container to take it in, and then more will come in. So I believe this is referring to the populace and taking in more information. So we don't want to burst the dam all at once. So there becomes like an exercise of disclosure or some information, seeing how much the container can hold, and then putting in some more and putting in some more, but not all at once at the beginning. So we're at this phase where there's what some are calling soft disclosure, where those in high positions are getting on to prepare the people for what's coming. And it's a soft disclosure. It's not what everybody who knows what's going on wants to see at first, but this idea of the limitation is also preparatory to those who are receiving, because we literally don't want to make everyone have a mental breakdown here. That's not the goal. So the goal is not to give everything all at once, but to see how much it can handle. So I want to read a little bit out of the I Ching. This is the Wilhelm Baines version, Book of Changes. And this is really calling to me, especially with all this negative China energy going on, is to also be able to see the benefits of the thing that is inflated right now as the negative. So I turn to some wisdom in ancient China and honor that part of China, this part of China, the I Ching. So I want to read a little on this. So this says a yang line, or no, it starts with the yang, yang, then two yins, then a yang, then a yin, starting from the bottom up. A lake occupies a limited space. When more water comes into it, it overflows. Therefore, limits must be set for the water. The image shows water below and water above, with the firmament between them as a limit. The Chinese word for limitation really denotes the joints that divide a bamboo stalk. In relation to ordinary life, it means the thrift that sets fixed limits upon expenditures. In relation to the moral sphere, it means the fixed limits that the superior man sets upon his actions, the limits of loyalty and disinterestedness. The superior man. So that would mean anyone who is able to see the biggest picture and is also in high positions for the way to set limitations on how much comes out at a time, right? The judgment of this tile is limitation, success. Galling limitation must not be persevered in. Okay, so limitations are troublesome, but they are effective. So we don't really like it, but there is a purpose. If we live economically in normal times, we are prepared for times of want. To be sparing saves us from humiliation. Limitations are also indispensable in the regulation of world conditions. In nature, there are fixed limits for summer and winter, day and night, and these limits give the year its meaning. In the same way, economy, by setting fixed limits upon our expenditure, acts to preserve prosperity and prevent injury to the people. So right now we're talking about expenditure in information, okay? But in limitation, we must observe due measure. If a man should seek to impose galling limitations upon his own nature, it would be injurious. Okay, so anyone who's really holding back and limiting themselves and doesn't want to look at the truth, that is going to be injurious at some point. And if he should go too far in imposing limitations on others, they would rebel. We're seeing that right now as well with the censoring and so forth. Therefore, it is necessary to set limits even upon limitations. Okay, so this is kind of calling out moves and counter moves in the exposition, so to speak. Okay, the image of this tile is water over lake, the image of limitation. Thus, the superior man creates number and measure and examines the nature of virtue and correct conduct. So, in this image, a lake is something is limited, it's water. Water, though, is inexhaustible. A lake can contain only a definite amount of the infinite quality of water, because otherwise it doesn't stay in the lake, right? It seeps out or overflows. This is its peculiarity. In human life, too, the individual achieves significance through discrimination and the setting of limits. Therefore, what concerns us here is the problem of clearly defining these discriminations, which are, so to speak, the backbone of morality. Unlimited possibilities are not suited to man. If they existed, his life would only dissolve in the boundless. So we can't live completely without limitations. This is what this is saying. Or we would just dissolve, okay? To become strong, a man's life needs the limitations ordained by duty and voluntarily accepted. The individual attains significance as a free spirit only by surrendering himself with these limitations and by determining for himself what his duty is. So this really speaks well to right now, each of us seeing like we only have a limited capacity to understand fully what's going on and all the ins and outs, and maybe we don't have access to all the intel, and some of us have greater access to intel and some of us have lesser, okay? So that does determine what job we have to do, like where we are in the scheme of things. You know, if we know that something's going on, but we don't have all of anything beyond that, excuse me, my Vega Life protein drink, love it. We each have a job to do. So if we can only see what's going on, but we don't have much other intel, but we know what's going on, we can hold space for other people, right? We can hold a calm presence. Because if you do have a sense of what's going on, you know planet Earth's ascending. You know we're going through this massive transformation. You know there's a big change happening. And you sit with it and you feel it in your heart, and your heart feels peaceful. Which mine does. My heart feels peaceful. It feels the threat, but behind that knowing is a peace. So if that's all you know, that's what you can lend. Your job is just to be that peace right now, just to be that pure knowing. And all the, like, I'm not a professional at getting specific intel. I could have gone down that road, but everything in me was like, sit in what you do know and strengthen what you do know and strengthen your sight and strengthen your sense of knowing, which is what I've been up to for the past 6 months, really strengthening my sense of knowing. And staying like informed for sure. But that's why I've been doing videos about what's been going on, because others have more intel in that way than me. But now is the time for the inner work to really shine, right? Now is the time that when you know and you can hold peace, that you just do. And you can offer that to the people around you. Like I just sat with the people I'm living with and we did an earth meditation, sending love and awakening to all beings. Reminder of the God self that's coming through right now. And it was very powerful. Very powerful. And so there are things you can do in the meantime while you're waiting, right? While you're waiting to see what the next move is. And that's not our operation. So that's not our job, is what this tile is saying to me. So, I mean, there is some intel that's coming out, but I always question, all the intel that's being given us, except for by the highest sources, which we're not really getting right now. I mean, we have had Secretary of State. I do see him laying a very soft disclosure flooring for what's coming forth. So that I'm like, that is all legit and on the up and up. All the other intel, some is correct information, some feels like purposeful misinformation. Not really to mess with you so much, but to make sure that, it's not done until it's done, right? So those who are opposing the steps, it's important to keep it effective for the win, so to speak. So now this is giving us the lines, okay? So each line adds up to the meaning, and of course there is commentary in here I'm going to comment on again. But one thing I have found is, of course, the I Ching works in the present moment. So when we're pulling it for the right now, it's a communication of the energies of the right now, because that's where I'm pulling it from, and that's its wisdom, that's its technique. So I feel like this is a lot of good intel that is from even higher up, right? It's from the way itself. 9 at the beginning means not going out of the door, and the courtyard is without blame. So here's the commentary. Often a man who would like to undertake something finds himself confronted by insurmountable limitations. Then he must know where to stop. If he rightly understands this and does not go beyond the limits set for him, he accumulates an energy that enables him, when the proper time comes, to act with great force. Discretion is of prime importance in preparing the way for momentous things. Concerning this, Confucius says, "Where disorder develops, words are the first steps. If the prince is not discreet, he loses his servant. If the servant is not discreet, he loses his life. If germinating things are not handled with discretion, the perfecting of them is impeded. Therefore, the superior man is careful to maintain silence and does not go forth." So that's a pretty good indication of what's going on behind the scenes. the perfecting of the actions, none of that can be revealed to us. That would just be stupid. We would diffuse the potency by knowing, right? So it's good to remember right now that it's actually important we don't fully know, and demanding that we know is actually asking for the power from the situation, and we don't want to strip it of the power. We want it to have its full force. So it's more powerful for us to know that and to keep our proper jobs, right? 9 in the second place means not going out of the gate and the courtyard brings misfortune. When the time comes for action has come, the moment must be quickly seized. Just as water first collects in a lake without flowing out, yet is certain to find an outlet when the lake is full, so it is in the life of man. It is a good thing to hesitate so long as the time for action has not yet come. It's a good thing to hesitate so long as the time for action has not yet come, but no longer. Once the obstacles to action have been removed, anxious hesitation is a mistake that is bound to bring disaster because one misses the opportunity. So we're really in a critical juncture right now, really critical juncture of when to move exactly, precisely. So I think our jobs as, out in the world, I mean, if you're having time to watch this video, you're out sitting in your room like me, or you're sitting out like me, while others with a job that's right in on the task are doing it. So our job right now is to really hold space for the clear knowing of when is the time and to support that. 6 in the third place means he who knows no limitation will have cause to lament, no blame. If an individual is bent only on pleasure and enjoyment, it is easy for him to lose his sense of the limits that are necessary. If he gives himself over to extravagance, he will have to suffer the consequences with accompanying regret. He must not seek to lay the blame on others. Only when we realize that our mistakes are of our own making will such disagreeable experiences free us of errors. So some people have been taking advantage of their extravagant life, for sure, and they've got away from this idea of knowing what the proper limits are in government and in being in high positions. So it's payback time, like it's time the limits are, that's the accompanying regret and consequences. And this is the right now energy. So this is what's happening right now. 6 in the fourth place means contented limitation, success. Every limitation has its value, but a limitation that requires persistent effort entails at a cost of too much energy. Every limitation has its values, but a limitation that requires persistent effort entails the cost of too much energy. When, however, the limitation is a natural one, for example, the limitation by which water flows only downhill, it necessarily leads to success, for then it means a saving of energy. And this is all about energy, guys. The energy that otherwise would be consumed in a vain struggle with the object is applied wholly to the benefit of the matter in hand, and success is assured. Ooh, that is a good one. So if the limitations that you have applied, like you're trying to keep something up that's a facade, and you have to overexert yourself to keep that in check, that's too much energy that's exerted because it's not a natural thing. It's not like a lake that naturally collects as much water as it does. Same with a people, a governing body. There's certain limitations that are set that's natural, but when that limitation is exceeded and someone has to put a false limitation and keep it going, it's expending unnatural energy is what it's saying. So that eventually that struggle energy is going to actually turn in favor of the natural limitation. So that's why we're seeing a shift right now, because the opposing forces have exceeded their energy quota. That's really what it comes down to. And that's why it's a natural law that it's being corrected now. 9 in the fifth place means sweet limitation brings good fortune. Going brings esteem. It says the limitation must be carried out in the right way if it is to be effective. If we seek to impose restrictions on others only while evading them ourselves, these restrictions will always be resented and will provoke resistance. If, however, a man in a leading position applies the limitation first to himself, demanding little from those associated with him, and with modest means manages to achieve something, a good fortune is the result. Where such an example occurs, it meets with emulation, so that whatever is undertaken must succeed. Well, I can think of who that exactly applies to. So whatever is undertaken must succeed now because of this law of the universe. The Book of Changes is speaking to the way things change and why. The energy, how it moves, how one form of chi changes to another form of chi, and this is the one we're in today. And the final line set is the 6 at the top: galling limitation, perseverance brings misfortune, remorse disappears. And the commentary: if one is too severe in setting up restrictions, people will not endure them. The more consistent such severity, the worse it is, for in the long run a reaction is unavoidable. In the same way, the tormented body will rebel against excessive asceticism or disassociation, right? And associating only with spirit. On the other hand, although ruthless severity is not to be applied persistently and systematically, there may be times when it is the only means of safeguarding against guilt and remorse. In such situations, ruthlessness towards oneself is the only means of saving one's soul, which otherwise would succumb to irresolution and temptation. Ruthlessness towards oneself. Some people are going to definitely have to turn themselves in, is what that says to me. So it's an interesting time, an interesting day, an interesting tile. Yeah, I hope you got something out of this today and some sense of comfort. And yeah, we'll pull another one tomorrow and just watch how things go through the eyes of the I Ching, which you are learning along with me. So if you have any comments or any, maybe you want to see, is that the one we just did? Yeah. 60? Is that right? I feel like it was a different one, but no, that was right. See, I'm just learning these. I'm just learning these, and so that's the one we did today. Any comments are welcome. But this came to me as like a directive in my spirit of what I needed to get out and use at this time. So I want to share it with you. So I hope you appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon. Much love. It's not letting me stop. It's not letting me stop. I do not know why.